Alright, first things first, Thorn says, after everyone gathers in the centre of the apartment. The Grad Ambassador is our main in with the Union President. However, considering what we're planning to do, it's important that we make sure that the Grad won't be seen as hostile conspirators. Motives against the Terrans are easy to draw up, regardless of the truth of the matter. Yes, we understand big picture, but turning peoples against Grat before bigger problem comes will not help. Doom Grat more. Nodding comments. Exactly. Hence why we reached out to the Skriller as well, Brandy points out. The President was to meet with them regarding an array of crap before the Grat, but since both species find themselves so new to the stars, and in similar situations, they agreed that merging the meetings would be beneficial to all parties. A potentially very powerful alliance, if things go right. How? And how does that help bring the heat of the Grad? Simone questions, still not connecting the dots, to which Chak pats her shoulder before answering. It's to give the Union something so valuable that they will be more willing to overlook our drastic action. It's still a gamble though, and I'd be very interested to hear details of how this alliance could be so powerful, she says, before looking to the other Terrans. Union has the second biggest navy, only outnumbered by Centrals, and although their production of military vessels and equipment is impressive, it's at the cost of more economic productions, such as infrastructure, colony maintenance, etc., those kind of things. Basically, if the Grat could be contracted to supplement those areas in the Union, then they in turn would have more access and integration with the wider community. That and more direct protection and resources from the Union in general. As for the Squilla, they apparently reproduce at an asinine degree. A single breeding pair can produce thousands of viable spawn in a single encounter, hence why the Trooper elite have been using them as a secret workforce and kept them hidden away, considering how easy it would be for the Squilla to overrun Trooper society if given the chance, Devon explained. Basically, their society and population is normally very sparse, almost like each individual is a nomadic hermit that lives in solitude, until they feel like searching for a reproduction partner, because they understand how easily out of control their numbers can get. Although they're not currently considered Deathworlders per se, they can naturally survive incredible oceanic pressures and temperatures. That and they are apparently savants with oceanic engineering, meaning they can be almost unparalleled in workforce and certain military applications, Thorn adds. Simone crosses her arms, feeling dubious. So, the Union would use them as labour of vassal nations? After how the Grat were invaded and how the Trooper treated the Squilla, I don't know. Feels wrong, she remarks, honestly. Not quite. Though that's a potential risk of happening, the last thing the Union wants to do is be perceived as submitting other species into servitude. Even though Central is effectively guilty of that, it would render what little goodwill the Union managed to scrape together with the majority of Central species into shreds. However, if the Union agrees to a formal alliance where the three parties have more or less equal sway in how terms and actions are hashed out, it could be a chance for the Union to socially close the distance with wider communities, because the Skrilla, and to a lesser extent the Grat, are highly sought after in terms of making productive deals. The Union remains relatively independent, but basically still gets to better integrate with Central, because they'd be in some aspects involved with whatever the Skrilla and Grat are doing business with, Brandy said. Wait, are we trying to have them form a federation? Chak asked skeptically. Best case scenario, yes, but a simple alliance will do just fine, Thorn replies with a nod. Wait, I'm losing the narrative a bit. So we're using this extremely tempting proposition to basically bribe the President to listen to us and not take action against the Grat, Simone asks. No, we're bribing her to not have us hunted down and imprisoned, or worse, for what's basically terrorism, Thorn counters. And with what we know is coming, this potential alliance will further unite the galaxy in a key way. It gives incentive for Central and the Union to more openly cooperate against a bigger threat. As it stands, the two most formidable militaries will stand their own grounds and operate completely separated, until it would most likely be too late. But, with more connective tissues between them, the more united they will be at the start of Doomsday. Chak's eyes flash as something immediately comes across her mind. Why stop at the Grat and Squilla? She ponders aloud. The rest of the room looks to her puzzled at what she was exactly getting at. The princess adjusts herself in her seat before speaking up to clarify. Consider this. We invite other nations in on these talks to possibly further expand on such an alliance, she poses. I think that will just invite more risk and problems. Thorn tries to let the Kali down easy on such an idea. I know, but hear me out. The Tshirt have already promised military aid towards the liberation of the Kali people. I see a close alliance forming out of this, after hopefully succeeding. And with my presence at the meeting, I see no reason to not involve the Kali in on this alliance. My brother's forces already are the primary uplifters of the Grat, after all. I think the Tshirt will see the benefit in the alliance, especially with the Grat and Squilla, as perfect direct consumers and providers for their meat markets. Another people I think may stand to benefit would be the Wataf. Granted, we don't have any strong political ties with them currently, but like the Squilla, they come from a mostly oceanic world as well. Not only could they share much of their specialized technology, but they will also have access to workforces and engineers of a species that can much more comfortably live on their worlds and colonies. Not only that, but both the Tshirt and Wataf only have associate species status for Central. This alliance would give them more than enough influence to very possibly merit proper membership status. That is, if Central doesn't see this alliance as a rival organization, especially one dominated by Deathworlders, Brandy points out. I'm more concerned with putting the Terran, Wataf and Tshirt leadership in one room together. They've been on and off in military conflict with one another for, well, since the Terran's uplifting, really. Simone added, very skeptically. I just don't see them playing ball so easily. I mean, I was fighting in the conflict against the Wataf just a few years ago. If things go bad, which considering what we're planning on doing, it very much could, we could spark a whole new conflict and put the Tshirt support for the Kali into jeopardy. And I really don't see the Union going along with it either, regardless of what could be gained from it. Don't get me wrong, hun. That kind of alliance would be as good as it could get before the Manaranian invasion hits. Especially if we stall it as much as possible, but I just don't see that working out. What's the Manaranian? Sonla questioned, looking up from her assorted meat snack. Before anyone else could respond, Troy took the initiative. They're like bad Terranish people. They have like the whole galaxy surrounded with their fleets, yeah? And they've secretly been there waiting for a prime time to jump in and invade for probably hundreds of thousands of years. A long time ago they went around and put a fear gene or something in all the species' heads to make us scared of them and shit. Also, their tech is apparently like way more advanced than the rest of the galaxy. So unless we get the galaxy united to delay their chance to invade, we're all very, very fucked. Like, we're not all gonna die, probably, but they will be in charge, and not in the nice way, he explains, casually. Sonla stares at him blankly for a moment, before turning to everyone else. Okay, but seriously, what are they? She asks again. No, Troy pretty much summed it up well, Simone replies with an agreeing nod. When no one else added to the contrary, Sonla huffed a hiss and resumed snacking. Fine, I get it. It's not for me to know, she concludes, believing that she isn't going to get an actual legitimate answer. Chuck slightly shakes her head before returning to the previous topic. I know it's taken on more risks, but if we can pull it off to even a partial success, the better off we and the rest of the universe will be. To me, I think it's worth trying, she insists. I don't know, hun, Simone utters, trying to not sound dismissive. Then we try it in the most effective way possible. First we meet the President with the Grat and Squilla. We put the proposal to her, and then convince her of the very real larger threat. Once we determine how she responds to our actions, we then introduce the Tshirt and Wataf representatives into the conversation. If the Union President is agreeable and understands, she may actively pursue the larger alliance. If she isn't, well, we figure out our next best move and focus on removing my father from power, since we already have Tshirt support, Chuck argues. The Kali being a possible extension to the Manaranians' efforts, stopping them from disrupting the rest of the stars, may be enough to buy the galaxy a bit more time. Time that we can refocus on the Union and the wider unification. The room is silent, other than the munching of meat. Everyone is thinking about the Kali's words very carefully, with an array of thoughts on it. You're our politician, lass. If you believe that's the best course to take, then we'll go for it. Fuck it. We're already in the boiling pod, right? Thorn chuckles in a long sigh. Yeah, don't like it. But there is a way forward if it doesn't work out, Devon agrees. Like Thorn said, fuck it. Might as well continue the insanity, Brandy inputs. Chuck then looks up to Simone for her honest feelings, to which the redhead bites her cheek, unable to read what her gut is telling her. I trust you, hun. Let's do it, she finally concedes. Great. I'll start making calls to the Wataf and Zartuk ambassadors to set this up, the caddy replies with determination, before giving the redhead a thankful hug. Yeah, that reminds me. I should be making a call as well, Simone says, as she stands up with the princess. Devon and I will work out the detailed logistics of the plan then, and I already have an idea that we can use our new infiltrator for, Thorn hints, as he looks at Sonla directly. Halfway into a new bite, the Varuk glances back up at the Terran with wide eyes. Finally! She cheers, in a muffled hiss. Moving to a secluded place in the apartment, Simone looks at the card that Troy handed her. Still feeling very uncertain about it, she inputs the net address and gives it a call. After a few short moments drag on for what feels like forever, a familiar feminine voice speaks up. Terran Embassy, you've reached Foreign Service Officer Sandy. After a few standard seconds, Simone can't help but smirk slightly. Hey, Bree, she says. One moment, please, Bree replies in a still professional tone, but slightly rushed. After what sounded like a blip, her voice returned. Simone? Sorry, I had to disable the recording feature. She now sounds very much like her old academy self. The one and only, the redhead chuckles. I hope you don't blame me if I kinda suspect that you're still recording this conversation. I'm not, I promise, but yeah, that's fair, Bree replies. I want to ask how you're doing, but I also don't know how much of an actual war criminal you are, so care to explain? Absolutely. If you don't mind meeting up in person with me and my fiancé, Simone offers casually. Oh, right, sure? Sure, that's so damn crazy. The Cali Princess? You can imagine the face I made when I saw the local tabloids. How the hell did that happen? The woman says, sounding like she was getting up from a sitting position. Sweet serendipity. But I'll go into detail in person. Doesn't have to be somewhere super public, but I'd appreciate not immediately being arrested, Simone says, only in half jest, knowing she has to be skeptical of everyone in her academic past. Oh, right, no, of course not. Sorry if I sound suspicious. I kind of started to think I wasn't going to get this call from you, especially with whatever happened with Ambassador Zreek's son, Bree replies. Oh, there's a small public garden near your apartment. Will that work? If I didn't know how awkward you can be, I'd be far more suspicious. Sure, that works. Send me the directions and we'll come to meet you. See you soon, Simone farewells. Got it. Should be there in 40 or so minutes. I'll be making a quick stop while on the way. See ya. Bree responds, before the call ends. Releasing a nervous sigh, the redhead sends Chuck a private message to update her on the situation. As soon as the princess wraps up her own calls, they'll head out. Simone, Chuck, and Droom walk together into the public garden, expecting the Terran's old friend to arrive in roughly 5 standard minutes. Despite wanting the dog to enjoy sniffing the flowers and plants, Chuck ensures that Droom knows that it is time to be aware and working. Thankfully, it's a simple endeavour, as the pup takes her duty to protect the princess with the utmost care and attention. To avoid misunderstandings, she's wearing a vest which clearly states, Security Animal, do not touch or interact while on duty, on both sides. If people were planning on staying in the garden, the immediate sight of the Terran beast clears them out real quick. For several minutes, the two women simply stood together, enjoying the plants, while low-key keeping a lookout for potential trouble. Until eventually, a tall and lanky woman turns the corner in a power walk. In both of her hands, she supports a disposable beverage carrier with 3 tall clear cups, each a different colour. She only slows when her eyes catch Simone's. She was clearly a nervous wreck, but not seemingly in being the bait for a trap kind of way. Well, look at you. Working for the Terran ambassador, huh? Guess we both found ourselves landing in pretty high places, Simone greets with a sincere smile. Bree's face flushes as she chuckles. Yeah, I guess so, she replies, before addressing the Callie while glancing down at the canine nervously. Hello, Princess. I'm Bree Sandy. Simone and I were roommates once upon a time. Cute dog, by the way. They have a name? Greetings, Bree. It's lovely to meet you. And thank you. Her name is Room. I'd offer you to pet her, but she's on duty, and I'm still learning to handle her. The Callie responds with a friendly bounce. So, you got operatives in flower ghillie suits ready to pounce on me or what? Simone jokes to break the tension. As hilarious as that would be, no. Luckily for you, your association with the princess while in Central keeps you out of the Union's reach, but I'd still be careful if I were you. The President is inbound in a few days, and so there may be more eyes looking your way, Bree replies, as she carefully adjusts her hands on the carrier. Oh, we're aware. Hopefully we all get along, Simone replies, before nodding to the clear cups. What you got there? A peace offering. I stopped by my favourite corner shop and picked up some ice slush drinks. I made sure that the flavouring was safe for Callie. They even had a Coldew flavour, though I don't know if it's real Coldew. Still, if you'd like it, you're free to have. Jack's eyes flash slightly at the gesture. Oh, how kind of you. Really, that's so nice. But I hope you understand my hesitancy to accept drinks from someone working for the Union, while my fiancé is so directly involved. Not that I'm accusing that you've tampered with them, of course. But it's a bit of a concern, she says apologetically. Right. Should have thought about that. Drat. But of course, I understand, Bree replies, now realizing that she will have to carry all the drinks with her for this whole interaction. Here, Simone says, as she steps up and takes out both the green and a red cold drink. Pulling out two devices that Devon lended before they left, Simone activates the both of them before fitting the rounder one in her pocket. The other being more of a stick with a freshly protruding needle, she sticks it in each drink and tediously around their straws, before reading on the small display with each result of the analysis. Oh yeah, full of chemicals, but nothing nefarious outside companies cutting corners, the redhead informs, before holding out the green drink to Jack, who accepts it happily. Giving a thankful nod to Simone, Bree takes her remaining bright blue drink and tosses the carrier in a nearby recycling receptacle. Speaking of which, still eating those gross chocolate bar pie things? Or did they finally melt for your gut? She asks. Raising an eye tuft, Simone reaches into her jacket and waves a crinkly food product, making the woman let out an amused laugh. Cocoa slab pies, and yes, I always have at least one on me at all times, the redhead proudly reports, before fitting the item back into its internal sleeve. You look good, by the way. How are the folks? Bree's amused face falters a bit, as if she considers something. They're doing really well. But before we actually catch up, I'd appreciate to know what happened. The reason behind your court-martialing, I mean. From what little I've managed to dig up, it doesn't look great in your favour, but it's so barren of details that it was hard to believe it was true. Simone bites at her cheek and nods, before tilting to a nearby bench for the three to sit to talk. After they get relatively comfortable, the redhead slowly breathes in to prepare herself for this conversation. You want the fully honest and blunt version? It's going to sound like complete bullshit meant to cover and justify my actions, but I swear it's all true. Or do you want the truth, but an easy-to-digest vague version? She offers. Do you happen to have evidence of the blunt version? Bree cautiously asks. I actually do, but in order for you to see it, you would probably freak out and run for the hills. Seriously, it's freaking mind-blowing shit. Or if you grant me the benefit of the doubt, the princess herself can attest to it being true. She personally helped me a lot with the fallout of my mission, in every way possible, but she has seen the truth firsthand, Simone says with a sorry shrug. I think I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Bree answers, before looking further down the bend to meet Chuck's eyes briefly. Okay, well, my unit, I killed them all, that's completely true, Simone starts with, to Bree's immediate shock, but they were following an illegal order to decimate an innocent refugee camp and make it look like they were tougher behind it. They were all going to go through with it, but I didn't let them. Bree leans back, even more shocked. That's not... well, I suppose that answers why the debrief was so... blank. Okay, that is a lot to swallow. Believe it or not, that's not the hard to believe part, Simone presses on. Admiral Harkon made the order. He is leading a terrorist organization to undermine the Union. My unit was trying to initiate me into it, I guess. One branch of the organization in this insane cult called the Children of Gaia. They ended up kidnapping me after I met Chuck here, and they took me to the Grat homeworld to try to initiate me by force, before trying to invade the world. They ultimately wanted to make it an Earth 2.0, some crazy bullshit. Chuck here saved me. I can get into more detail, but I think that's good enough. It's all true, Chuck confirms. Although we have nothing concrete, my people who defended the Grat homeworld have plenty of footage and captured prisoners. Although we have evidence of Harkon's direct connection, it's complicated to share due to its nature. Bree takes a moment to process all of that. Wow, I mean, the Union is aware of the Children of Gaia people, but at worst I believe they're only known to be weapon smugglers. This is a lot. Is that why you're here in Central, to expose them? Bree asks. Kinda, but we're here for other reasons too. Stuff that I'm not at liberty to share with someone in your position. Sorry, Simone answers. I see, I get it. Politics and all that. Wow. Wait, does that mean... No. No. Not Sam? Sam? Bree questions, in a severely apologetic tone, to which the redhead only answered with a slow nod. I'm so sorry. Thanks. Wrecked me for a long time before realizing how lost she really was. Well, still stings, but I've moved on. Hope you don't mind me saying so, but I'm not even totally sure you're not associated with them. It's hard to trust anyone from the Academy, really, but I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt too. I don't see you disappointing your family like that, Simone admits. Looking both hurt and understanding, Bree nods. I get it. The stuff we got up to while at the Academy with Sam, I can totally see why, but for what it's worth, I have nothing to do with it, she responds, as she looks to the ground between her feet. I wish you the best luck in whatever you're doing, and I'm glad you found someone that actually loves you. You look tired, but so happy too. It's good to see. Thanks, Bree. I'm happy to see your perseverance has paid off. I can only imagine how damn proud your folks are. Simone chuckles softly, as she pats the woman's back with her hand. Bree wipes a developing tear away from her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup. So fucking proud. Oh, look. She pulled out a small datapad from her uniform and held it up for the other two women to see. Activating it, she scrolls through pictures of her family. Simone smiles widely, seeing the familiar faces she once knew so well, gradually age a bit as graduations, promotions, birthdays, and other special events cross by. But then she raises an eye tuft and presses on the pad to stop on a particular photo. Who's the freaking baby in your arms? She excitedly asks, although from the hospital setting the context was apparent. Humming in glee, Bree bounces in her seat, super excited that the redhead asked before she could say it outright. That's Avery. I had him a few years after the operation. He's 2 now and currently spending time at my folks' place back home. I'm going to go back in a few weeks after all the president's business is done with, she says, with a higher-pitched tone. Oh, stars, those cheeks, Simone laughed, completely enthralled by the funny face of the depicted newborn. I know. Mum swears up and down that it's a feature of babies from her side of the family, Bree laughs in return. What if I told you we've adopted 2 wonderful kids? Simone said, as she activates her lens to send photos to the pad, but she felt a clenching hand grasp her shoulder from her fiancé. Feeling immediately stupid, Simone clears her throat. But I unfortunately only have photos of one of them. I recently transferred most of my photos into digital storage before coming to Central, she added in a fib. Ah, dang, Bree replies, allowing the obvious lie to pass, knowing it must have been for a reason. Simone shares pictures of SJ, as they were working very hard at their art. You adopted a Wataf? I didn't even think that was really possible, at least legally. How did that happen? Bree asked. I became fast friends with their mum. After they were all born, we made sure we got home, but she left us one to take care of. Their name is SJ, and right now art is everything they do, Simone answers with a returning grin. Well, that and watch cartoons. They recently started watching this old one called Ball Dragon. I personally don't get it. It's just a lot of burly men shouting while squatting, but SJ seems to enjoy it quite a bit. Chuck giggles. Oh, doesn't that show have a lot of vibe? Bree starts to say, before catching Simone staring at her with wide eyes and a subtle shake of her head. Linz? She corrected, with a wince on her face. Simone, Chuck says, as she lightly pats the Terran's shoulder reassuringly. I know it has fighting in it, but they spend so much time squatting and screaming between fights that considering the other shows SJ could be watching, I'll accept this one. Right, Simone chuckles. Wait, so you actually watched it too? A little, Chuck shrugs coyly. SJ has a bad habit of falling asleep while watching it. I will say I like the guy with pointy hair. The cranky one, I mean. He really loves his wife, it's so sweet. How do you two even meet, by the way? Bree inquires. She picked me up in the bar. Literally. Well, she picked me up in the alley next to the bar, Chuck answers, before snuggling at Simone's side. Done it enough times that at some point one will be a princess? The redhead shrugged in tease. Bree watches the two's genuine connection in that moment as they giggle together. Many doubts of them possibly lying about Simone's incident melted away with her heart. They all continue to share pleasant conversation of catching up, but eventually Bree has to stand up and toss her empty drink. I should probably head back to the office, but this was great. Totally not what I expected, and I still have lingering questions. But the important ones have been answered, and I'm glad that you didn't become what I feared you did. I have to admit something. I wasn't told to or anything, but I do have a recording device on me, just in case. But I'm real sorry, she reveals, as she removes a discreet, card-like device from under her uniform collar. I tested the drinks, you tried to record us. We're good, Simone assures. By the way, your recordings are gonna be no good anyway. She pulled out the other device from earlier, from her pocket. We have a damn good tech guy. Raising her eyebrows, rather impressed, Bree let out a light hum. Wow, guess you're already prepared. Shouldn't be surprised, I suppose, but fair. Thanks for meeting with me, and I sincerely hope someday all our kids can have playdates, she says, as her eyes begin to water again. Standing up, Simone opened her arms, allowing the two to share a comforting hug. Someday, count on it, the redhead promises, before letting the woman go. Don't be a stranger. Bree then backed away, as she shared a farewell way with Chuck. Good luck, you two, Bree says, before taking her leave. Once she was out of earshot, Simone sighed and turns to the Callie with a devious grin. Remind me when this is all over to introduce her to Ellie. I don't play matchmaker often, but can't hurt to see if that potentially goes anywhere, she says, before holding a hand out to help Chuck stand. Oh, that's a thought. Maybe, the princess giggles, as she, Simone, and the vigilant Papa make their way back to the apartment. The following days of prepping are not very eventful, but after scouting places and acquiring certain blueprints, the final plan is cemented. Until finally, the day of the president's arrival finally comes. They are all dressed in their royal gear, outside Sonla, who is dressed in more suitable gear for her designated job. However, she did wear a covering poncho in order to not draw any attention, as she separated with Thorn. Brandy, Troy, and Devin remained by Chuck as her personal guard, along with Simone and Droom, as they travelled to the initial meeting point with the Squiller ambassador. Nodrin and Miki made sure to leave early in order to help guard the Grat ambassador to ensure that there isn't any unexpected guests lingering near the recently repaired Grat embassy. Chuck double-checks with the Zartuk and Wataf ambassadors to confirm that they understand to arrive at a later time, having promised to be supportive of their deals they wish to present to the Grat. Trying not to sweat up a storm, Simone taps her foot on the elevator floor, her eyes staring holes in the door. This is it. Possibly the moments leading up to some kind of success, or complete fucking doom. Whose fucking idea was this? She whispers in jest, before the doors finally open.